Hi, my name is Asofa Zarafaiz, and today I will be talking to you about India's caste system. So, the caste system in India is a complex social structure that possesses the power to affect the lives of its population. This social hierarchy can influence social status, occupations, and relationships. Despite its power being diminished with governmental reforms and modernization, its impact on labor division, marriage restrictions, and hierarchical arrangements continues to perpetuate social inequalities. South Asia's lengthy history with colonialism has reinforced European ideals that have led to the idealization of fair skin and its association with higher social class. So my presentation today will discuss the effects of casteism propagated by post-colonial South Asia and the social inequalities this system perpetrates onto its population. So I will first start off with a brief overview of India's caste system. Then I will be talking to you about colonialism's influence on casteism in South Asia. And finally, I will talk about the perpetuation of this system and the psychological impacts. So a brief history. While we have many similar social hierarchies in South Asia, today I'm only going to be talking to you about India's caste system, which is mostly based on occupation. So it's mostly based on the population's occupation, and it's kind of ranked in a certain way. So in South Asia, caste divisions create a complex social structure. The caste system in India is defined by social stratification, such that social status determines occupation and interpersonal exchange norms. Despite its implementation approximately 3,000 years ago, this social hierarchy continues to have a significant impact on India's society today. So, predestined careers. When choosing employment opportunities, certain jobs are associated with different caste groups. For example, this research noted that individuals pertaining to higher castes would rather be unemployed than be employed in an occupation that is not assigned to their caste. Such thinking can lead to lower castes working traditional occupations such as sanitary workers, carcass cleaners, and agriculture labor. So, the religious influences. Casteism went beyond influencing South Asia socially and economically. The caste system persisted with religious traditions in the continent. So, Jodhkan Shah highlighted that Muslim communities in South Asia created their own systems of hierarchy in which some individuals are considered more equal than others, and they do this by referring to the religious texts of Islam. So, you're being married to your caste. The consequences of the caste system are frequently seen when considering marriage prospects. And this is something we actually covered in class recently. So many countries focus on dowry payments, age, and occupation when determining eligible spouses. For Indians, caste group is an additional factor to consider. Dar examined the consequences intercaste married couples experience, and he emphasized that partaking in intercaste marriages is considered an act of defiance to Indian culture. The participants of this study specifically noted that they faced psychological agony and humiliation. So now we'll move on to colonialism's influence on casteism in South Asia. South Asia was under European rule for many centuries, forcing individuals to alter and adapt their perception of life. Therefore, colonialism reinforced authority ranking in South Asia to favor European colonizers. Under British rule, South Asians developed many Eurocentric ideals when creating their own principles of difference. So, planned power. In preparation for their departure from India in 1947, the British used caste differentiation to their advantage. So the British exploited this social structure in order to gain further control over the region. Sofin and Nair noted that this tactic would allow them to divide and conquer by ensuring caste divisions and class disparity. While colonialism did not create the social hierarchy, it did perpetuate its enforcement in order to gain more power in the region. So, the racialized casteism. Caste differentiation in South Asia was later influenced by race and racial theories that were emerging in European thought. In Britain, lighter skin was often associated with access to wealth, status, and dominance. So this thought was then perpetuated in South Asia. In South Asia, dark skin became associated with negative connotations that were both discriminatory, stereotypical, such as ugly and corrupt. Therefore, creating an idealization of fair skin through Western influence for the possibility of cultural and economic success. Such yearning was showcased in everyday life in India. For example, the influence of colorism on caste in India has shown that women can have limited career opportunities due to their skin color. So now we're going to move on to caste dynamics. So the perpetuation of the system that I just mentioned and the psychological impacts it has on its population. So the caste system in India continues to play an influential role in the lives of Indians. This system impacts individuals' social status and relationships, as well as their access to resources. And these effects can influence the population's education, employment, and housing. Marginalized castes are often subjected to feelings of inferiority, discrimination, and stereotypes. So, earned or deserved, the labor market. In India's labor market, managers emphasize the importance of merit when hiring new employees. So, Vade found that the managers that were interviewed highlighted that merit is most important over social networks. However, a candidate's merit can depend on many markers, such as prior experience and doing well on a written exam. And these markers would imply that candidates must have had access to certain resources that would only be accessible to them if they were part of a higher caste. So, boys versus girls. So, boys versus girls, gender-based discrimination. Gender-based discrimination is highly influenced by caste identity. Depending on the caste group, men are often highly valued as they would ensure the maintenance of the caste group. For example, for Gaunders, a caste known for farming, agriculture, and landowning, there is extreme neglect of girls since ancestral land would need to be divided in the form of dowries. Mahalingam found that a similar preference for boys for the Tevars, a warrior caste group. Their preference stems from the thought that the boys would be able to stand up for their family, while the girls would only be considered a liability. So, a lower caste equals unhappy. The impact on well-being. So, in addition to this, Jory and Anand found that individuals of lower caste groups showcase lower life satisfaction and well-being, particularly in regards to emotional well-being and social well-being. Considering that caste is perpetuated in everyday life in India, its effects vary in numerous categories. Social well-being assesses social contribution, social integration, social acceptance, and social growth. So given that individuals of lower caste are at a disadvantage in regard to social hierarchy, it is expected that they would demonstrate lower social well-being. They had also highlighted that caste may not directly impact well-being, but it does indirectly increase the stressors in the lives of low caste individuals, therefore creating more unhappy individuals. So, in conclusion, there's so many impacts of caste-based discrimination. The caste system in India is frequently perpetrated in everyday life. For example, there's the persistence of marginalized communities. they're frequently putting certain people at the bottom of this social hierarchy. It also creates socioeconomic disparities. And additionally, obviously, it does create many psychological impacts on the population. Thank you.